Assalamu alaikum. In the previous lessons, we've been mainly focused on grammar. We studied the different grammatical concepts that you need to know if you're trying to get a score of 7 or higher in the IELTS exam. However, grammar alone is not sufficient for you to write a good essay. What's even more important than grammar is knowing how to form the structure of an essay. In today's lesson, I'm going to give you an overview of the three main components of any essay that you write in the IELTS or even away from the IELTS. These three main components are the introduction, the body paragraphs, and the conclusion. Then throughout the upcoming lessons, I'll explain each one of these components in details. Let's start our lesson for today. The first thing that I'd like to focus on when it comes to the study of an essay structure is knowing how to write an essay. I'd like to start by asking you a question. Now, look at these two different types of writing. Look at the first one right here and the second one. I know maybe the font is too small and it's not really important if you actually manage to read the words. It doesn't really matter. I would like to ask you a question. Which one of them seem to be easier to understand? The first one here or the second one? And I'm not asking you to focus on reading. I'm just asking you to tell me your first impression. I care about your impression. So does the first essay, this essay right here, does this one seem easier to understand or that one seems to be easier to understand? Don't try to read, just tell me your impression. I suppose, logically speaking, and if you ask me this question, I'd answer you by saying that this one seems easier to understand. And I'll tell you why. This one is divided into paragraphs, whereas this one seems like a big block of words. Now, of course, if anyone is trying to understand anything, it's always easier and more convenient if you divide this item into smaller parts, smaller chunks. If you force me to read a long essay like this one, I may not be able to understand it because it's a very big chunk. But if you divide it into smaller parts like that, then it should be easier for anyone to get the idea that the writer is trying to convey. This is the whole point that I'm trying to make here. Okay, let's take some practice related to this. Look at this part right here. I know this probably looks even scary. This is an essay. What you need to do is to divide it into paragraphs, 4 paragraphs, 1 for the introduction, 2 for the body paragraphs, and 1 for the conclusion. Can you take some time to do this? Okay, I will now show you the answer. And of course, you will need more time, so you can pause the video if you want to. Okay, now, if you divide the previous essay into paragraphs, this one is going to be the introduction. And starting from the words, on the one hand, we have the first paragraph. And then on the other hand, we have the second paragraph right here. And then in conclusion, we have the last paragraph, which is the conclusion. This should be easy this way. Let's talk about the 3 main components of a normal essay, of any essay that you write. The first component is the introduction, and the second component is the body paragraph or paragraphs, and the last one is the conclusion. I'm now going to give you an overview regarding each one of them. Okay, in the introduction, what are you trying to do? In the function of the introduction is for you to try to attract the reader's attention to the importance of an essay. So the first thing that you're trying to achieve is attraction. I'm going to explain to you in details in an upcoming lesson what this means. I'm going to actually devote the whole lesson just for this purpose. Okay. Now, the next thing that you're trying to do is to present the main topic of the essay. So after I finish attracting the reader, what I am trying to do is to tell the reader what the essay is going to be about. For example, maybe you are writing an essay about the education in Egypt. This is the main topic. And then after that, what do? After that, you shed light on the main ideas under the main topic. Then again, If I'm writing an essay about introduction in Egypt, perhaps my essay is discussing the reasons why this education in Egypt is not in such a good condition. Okay, now what else am I trying to do in the introduction? To present my opinion. So if I'm asked to write my opinion in the essay, I may have a chance to present it in the introduction, and this is done in some cases, some situations, not all the time, because in some cases you are not really asked to present your opinion. One more time, I'm going to explain all of these elements in details. What I'm trying to do right now is to give you an overview, not to provide you with any details. Okay, so this was the introduction. Now, how about the body paragraphs? Now, you could have as many body paragraphs away from the IELTS. You could have 7 or 8 or even 10 body paragraphs. But when it comes to the IELTS, what you're trying to do is to write a minimum of 2 paragraphs and a maximum of 3 paragraphs. So you will have 1 paragraph for the introduction, 2 or 3 paragraphs for the body paragraphs. Okay, now, what's the function of the body paragraphs? The body paragraphs include the most important information in the essay. In the introduction, you're not providing details. No, you're providing an overview. But the real message, the details, the new information that the reader doesn't know is actually presented in the body paragraphs. Okay. Now, how about the conclusion? The conclusion is the writer's way of saying goodbye to the reader. I mean, if you imagine that the essay is like a journey and then it's time for you to end this journey and say goodbye to the other passengers that were with you in the same bus. So this is what you do in the conclusion. It's like a farewell, it's like a goodbye. In a typical conclusion, you're supposed to do what? You're supposed to provide some advice. Maybe you can do that. You can give some advice. You're supposed to summarize what you mentioned in the body paragraphs. Maybe you can summarize instead of providing some advice. Maybe you can provide your opinion. If you didn't have a chance to provide your opinion in the introduction or in the body paragraphs, you can provide it in the conclusion. Or finally, you can mix between all of these elements. For example, you can provide a summary plus advice or opinion plus advice. This is what you can do. Okay, I hope today's lesson was useful. In the upcoming lessons, as I said, I'm going to provide you with detailed information regarding all of these elements, how to write an introduction in one lesson, how to write body paragraphs in another lesson, and how to write conclusions in a separate lesson. Thank you for your time, and I will see you in the next lesson, inshallah. Have a nice time. Goodbye.